There we go. Oh, 3, 2, and 1. Well, Mayor Brent, welcome back to Mayor's Monday here at WSAU, WSAU.com. We know your standard spot is the last Monday of the year,
Yeah.
but we're still checking in, in summer because why not?
Yep. Yeah.
First off, though, you being a lawyer, you'll appreciate a good disclaimer. Of course, you are appearing in this capacity as Mayor of Mosinee, not anything else right now because, people know that you have other expectations or other aspirations, but again, this is strictly focused on Mosinee and should not be construed as anything else. Now that the legalese is out of the way, I don't know.
You did pretty good at
Would that
Yeah.
legalese hold up in court?
Yeah, you really put it in simple to understand terms. So hey, maybe you have another calling.
Simple to understand terms. I feel like that's a backhanded compliment, but I'll take it. But again, as mayor of the great city of Mosinee, I mean, it seems every time we do this, in all seriousness, you're coming around with, Mike, you're not going to believe this project we got going on right now.
True.
What project is it now? Spill the beans.
Yeah, we've one of the things I'm very proud of in the city of Mosinee is the Central Wisconsin Business Park. Being as objective as I can, I think it is one of the cleanest, busiest parks in the Central Wisconsin area, and we've been thrilled during my time as mayor to see several new businesses come in and existing ones expand. Aero Global is a nice example of major expansion we saw. Great partner in our business park. Greenheck, Transport Refrigeration was brand new. Wisconsin Mechanical Solutions was brand new. But I'm happy to say that I chair the Planning Commission as mayor, and the Planning Commission unanimously approved just recently the first of what I understand is going to be potentially a 3-phase expansion of ABL Lights, which is right off Golf Club Boulevard, the main drag going through our business park. I think they're doing a manufacturing expansion and then office expansion at one point. So fantastic. It just shows you that, we're bringing more jobs, we're bringing more tax base, more business to the city of Mosinee, and I continue to strive to do that every day. I mean, I feel that's my job to grow the community, to keep it safe, to keep it the streets plowed, and keep the garbage picked up. You do all those essential things, but folks also want to see their community grow and be proud of it, and I am. So.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's not just it growing, adding houses, population-based things like that. It's growing and finding ways to improve what's already there. And obviously you've kind of fostered a business-friendly culture, because these aren't always necessarily projects that you're going out there and pursuing. They're businesses that are already here and saying, we like it here, we want to invest here, we see that there's great things going on. And that says a lot about the community in many different ways. Yeah,
and that's very true. Look at Aero Global, when they were looking at expansions, because they're doing well and they're a great business. The discussion I believe was, are we going to expand in Canada where they have operations and are headquartered, or where else do we want to expand? And they chose Mosinee. They've been a partner in our business park since the 90s, and I've toured their facility, and if you drive by it now, you just wouldn't believe what they've done. And in some of those projects, the city, quite honestly, plays no hand except to be a business-friendly partner when it comes to things like site plans. In other instances, the city plays a significant hand to get development, and I've been pro-development. Aero Global, for instance, I think there was some land involved that we contributed that the city still owned within the business park. There was a sewer line that had to be moved at a significant expense. So those are things the city contributed to see that expansion come. And same thing with Wisconsin Mechanical Solutions. They came to us and wanted to build on a certain parcel that the city had, but given the size of the development, it didn't make sense to sacrifice that parcel for something bigger down the road. And they wanted to pay good value for it, but we wanted to hold it for a larger development. So I said to them, well, don't say no just yet. What about this other smaller parcel we have down here? And I know it's going to cost some money on your end for site prep, because there's a lot of a lot of rocks that got to be moved.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, how about, we balance that out if the city would give you that land if you commit to developing on it and come to Mosinee. And they did. And they've been a great partner in our business park. So you got to get creative with ways to see economic development happen. But I think people like us in Mosinee because of how business friendly we are. We get new businesses that come in, as I mentioned, for like site plan approval. I remember transport refrigeration was a good example. And it was like, meeting, looked at everything, 15 minutes later, done, good luck. And there's sort of like a gasp of air, and they said, "You're the easiest community we've ever worked with." And I said, "Well, that's because you're doing good things.
Yeah.
So good luck with the project." And that's how we've got it done in Mosinee, and
Right.
I'm proud of that.
Absolutely. So then, there's the expansion now. How many jobs do you know could this add to the city yet? And I guess tax value wise, have you run those numbers yet?
That I haven't. And you really won't know until construction is complete, because then you got to go in and do the assessed valuation and
Sure.
find out how much it adds to your tax base. But that leads to another good topic, actually, is property taxes, right? Property taxes are the city's largest source of revenue, ahead of state aid and then transportation aids behind it. But it's property taxes. The city doesn't have revenue raising ability through a sales tax or an income tax. And we have people on fixed incomes. We have people on the other end of the spectrum just starting out on limited incomes. And I've always been conscious of keeping property taxes down. When I came into office, I was 30 years old at the time, and I had to overcome that perception with the older generation, thinking, well, is this going to be a tax and spend young guy?
Mm-hmm.
No, my goal has always been to keep taxes down and under control. And by bringing new businesses into our business park, we've expanded that tax base. We have a tax increment finance district out there. It's tripled in equalized value since it's been created. And what I want to focus on this year is to see if we can close that tax increment district early, which will take all of that increased value and return it to the general tax base, which should help keep property taxes down, if not reduced, in our next budget.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's good news. I'm sure everybody, because obviously the county and the school district benefit from that as well. But of course, you're concerned about the city, and for good reason, because you have added to the city's payroll. Mm-hmm. You've got road projects that are underway that have been borrowed for, so that could take some of those taxpayers and get them shaking a little bit, saying, what's going to happen in December when I get that nice postcard.
Right, and you mentioned road projects, you mentioned public safety. Those are things that we've invested in because in government you have mandatory spending, as I view it. Things like snow plowing, picking up the trash. I view keeping the streets in working order mandatory, and I view public safety that way. Then you have discretionary spending, parks, economic development, things of that nature. We have focused first and foremost on what I consider mandatory spending, and we were really understaffed at the police department if you look at FBI statistics, and that's just a factor of life and the resources we have to work with. We approved in the last couple budgets the hiring of 3 new police officers. 2 are going to go into the school as school resource officers, and we share that expense with the school district. And a 3rd is going to go on the street. And that puts people at ease to know, hey, in each of the buildings, elementary, middle, and high school, we have a school resource officer in Mosinee. And then, unfortunately, in this day and age, that's becoming more of a necessity. And then on the road side, you mentioned, we do have a major street project going through Mosinee. If you go through Main Street and instead of turning left at the brewery to stay on the state highway, you go straight. Well, that's where City Street starts and State Highway ends. So we are not reconstructing, but repaving the entire section from the corner of the brewery, wrapping around behind by the cemetery and out to the city border at Rangeline Road. And that's just much needed. It's heavy traffic that comes through with the school district and school travel. And we were able to secure a shared state aid with that, but we are still picking up a significant amount of the tab. And when you have to do a major project like that, it allows you to branch off and tackle some smaller street projects, because you're going to have to do a bond if you're going to take on that kind of debt. And when you're doing a bond, because there's issuance costs, you might as well, if you got other stuff to do, get it done within that bond, because you're already incurring those issuance costs. So it's an opportunity for us over this season and next summer to tackle some of those streets that we are admittedly behind on. So
yeah, indeed. And so what is that all going to mean then going forward? I know we're getting into the season where you want to start putting together next year's spending plan, next year's budget. I mean, do you have an idea of what that's going to mean yet for residents?
Right. You almost have to start thinking about your budget for next year the minute you pass your budget in one year, because the year goes by so fast.
No kidding.
And there's things you may need to try and accomplish during that time to be in a position to pass a good budget. So for instance, last year we passed a budget that, as I said, we're budgeting for a major street project, we're budgeting for officers. My charge to city staff right after that budget was passed, as I said, for the 2025 budget, I want to see zero property tax increase or even a decrease. And the way we get there, I said, is by being creative. And one way is closing that TIF early, as I mentioned, which will return money to the general tax base, the general fund. And another mechanism that we have is we lease space on our water towers to cell companies, as many municipalities do. It's a tremendous source of revenue for our utility. Well, our utility, when I came into office, owed the general fund a significant amount of money, because that's just the way the predecessors had run things, by using the general fund to try and float the utility and keep water rates down. I have asked that we try and get a buyout negotiated of those leases, and that would bring a significant amount of money into the utility, which then could be repaid to the general fund that it owes money to, and hopefully keep property taxes down. So those are creative things we're trying to work on. Not all of it, when you see the tax bill, is stuff that we can control. Last year, one of the things we ran into is because we hadn't done road projects, a significant number of them for several years, our average went down in general transportation aid, which means we lost some transportation aid last year. Fortunately, some of that was made up in increased shared revenue, but every budget seems to be getting more and more difficult. But
Indeed, and shared revenue, another great topic there. We're into year 2 now. The increased shared revenue, the 20% of the state sales tax being reserved to share with municipalities and the counties of the state. Do you know what that number is going to be yet, and what that could be spent on in year 2, I guess?
We don't. I don't suspect it to change much from last year. Last year, I think when you averaged out what we lost in transportation aid and gained in shared revenue, we went up by about 50 grand in money to work with. Had we not lost that transportation aid, we would have went up at about 100 grand. So it is a 100 grand increase around that neighborhood in shared revenue, but we have to factor in what we've also lost. So
Indeed. So one more thing before we let you go then. Obviously last year you got a boost with the Men's Senior Open coming to Century World. We've got a couple other big events. They're not necessarily coming to Mosinee, but they could have an impact on Mosinee too. The NFL draft. Have you thought about what that could mean for the city yet, or how you could maybe get creative to try and make a buck or two off of this?
Well, yeah. Well, I suppose there comes a point where Green Bay can't hold anymore, right? But they do have, some closer surrounding communities. I don't know if we'll see much from it, but I certainly would hope so. Central Wisconsin Airport is so convenient to fly into, and it's really only, about an hour and 40-minute drive to Green Bay. Goes pretty fast. So, I think I'll look to CWA to see what they can do to market themselves first as an airport, and we work well with them as a partner through our hotels to then try and get that traffic in to stay in Mosinee. So there is a great partnership there, and we'll see what we can do with CWA.
Yep, and then obviously we just found out here last week, World Horseshoe Championships could be coming to Central Wisconsin too. That would obviously be a little more of a direct impact for you because couple thousand people coming in over a 2-week period, they're going to need hotels and places to fly into, right?
Right, and that I certainly am hoping for the best. I think the CVB is putting in a bid on that, and I suspect that we are going to see some spillover from that. We do in other things that occur outside Mosinee because we got an attractive hotel, and you're going to have people coming in obviously for an event like that. Beyond a drive, they're going to have to be flying in. So great way to capture them at CWA and keep them in Mosinee, where there's good stuff to do, right? We've got the brewery, we've got fine dining, and we've got a brand new hotel you can stay at. So.
Absolutely. Well, Brent, we always appreciate the time. Look forward to chatting again in a few months or so.
Okay. Thanks.